Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 23 playthrough of the Pittsburgh Pirates. We are about to begin the 2047 playoffs today, and the Pittsburgh Pirates are back in the playoffs for a seventh consecutive season, eighth time in 10 years of this playthrough that we're in the playoffs. And for the first time ever, we've got the best record in baseball and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Made a lot of changes to this Pirates roster, particularly on the offensive side last offseason. And thus far, they've paid off, as I mentioned, with the best record in baseball. And for a team that has only made it to the NLCS twice in our decade as general manager, this has to be our best opportunity to actually get this team across the finish line to a World Series championship. So that has been our goal since the start of this season, and it remains our goal today. You may remember from the end of the last episode that we had some crazy tiebreakers in baseball, and I didn't even notice them all. There was a tiebreaker for there was a tie for the final wild card spot in the American League. There was a three-way tie for the National League East, and there was a four-way tie for the three wild card spots in the National League based on regular season records. So you can see that there were six tiebreaker games played to kind of resolve all of those issues. And we are now at the beginning of the playoffs, and it'll be an interesting matchup for our Pirates. We'll be getting the Brewers or the Cardinals right out of our division in the NLDS in a few days, as the Braves ended up with the third seed in the National League, despite a worse record than all of the wild card teams because they are the division champion in the NL East. We've kind of figured out our playoff roster at this point. I wouldn't say that there's any real shocks. Going with 12 pitchers and 14 position players. Pitching, we've got a surplus of excellent pitchers. So Bobby Astorga and Chris Colvin ended up not making the team. Both of them spent some time in AAA this year when we wanted to make room for another youngster, Devin Smith, on the roster. And then we wanted to bring on Jose Calderon in that trade with the Astros as another left-handed arm in our closer. So two good pitchers won't be on the roster. Final three position player spots came down to the utility man, David Green, the left fielder, Joel Fields, who both did end up making the team. Which means that the youngster Jerry Rivera, the right-handed hitting infielder who hit just 203 and 232 at-bats, did not make the team. I don't think he's quite as good defensively as David Green is, and I don't think he has quite the potential bat that Joel Fields does in terms of the power. Now, granted, Joel Fields hit just a $179 for us this year with 3 home runs. But looking at Joel Fields' splits, he did hit 250 against left-handed pitching as a right-handed batter, so feel that that may be a useful bat for us to have coming off of the bench. And we do have Luis Linares, our starting shortstop, who is a very good defensive shortstop, back. He missed the last 6 weeks of the regular season with injuries, but he will now hopefully be back in the lineup to be the glue that hopefully helps hold our infield together through hopefully what will become a long playoff run for the Pirates here in 2047. And the wild card series were interesting. The Yankees and the Angels both had sweeps in the American League. In the National League, both series went to the full 3 games, and the NL East winning Braves and the St. Louis Cardinals moved on. So we will be hosting our longtime division nemesis, the Cardinals, here in the NLDS as favorites with home field advantage, as we hope to help these Pirates finally win their first title since 1979. So 68 years at this point for the Pittsburgh Pirates since their last World Series championship. In this NLDS series, we'll obviously feature two of the top teams in the National League. You can see our Pirates second in the league in runs scored, second in the league in runs against. But the Cardinals were not far behind us, third in runs scored and fourth in runs against. And unfortunately for us, despite a 100-win regular season, we were bad against the Cardinals, 7-12 record. So hopefully the home field advantage will help us avoid this being an early and extremely disappointing exit. But the Cardinals are a team that definitely had our number in the regular season throughout 2047. We've got Sean Street on the mound. 26-year-old really came into his own this year. 17-7 with a 3.90 ERA, and he was named an All-Star for the first time for us this year. And he'll be going up against one of the top pitchers in baseball, Tony Machuca, now 35 years old. You can see he's won a couple Cy Young Awards, a boatload of Gold Gloves, and a boatload of All-Star honors. He was a pitcher with us briefly for a couple of months when we picked him up as a trade deadline acquisition back in 2041. Pitched well for us down the stretch that year. 5-2 record with a 3.61 ERA. But we couldn't afford to keep him on board after renting him for a couple months. And he's gone to St. Louis in the division and been a big thorn in our side since then. You can see he's led the league in innings pitched 4 times since he left us in the 6 years that he's been with the Cardinals. Iron Man at 35 years old went 11-10 this year with a 3.77 ERA. For the first time in 3 years, didn't lead the league in pitcher WAR. Still a very difficult pitching matchup for us. Gotta hope that the youngster Street gets us off to a good start in this series, because it's going to be a difficult one against this tough Cardinals team. And we do get a 4-1 win, so that was positive. Home run from Yoshitaro Nakahara. So Sean Street got things off to a good start, and it looks like Machuca did not actually pitch. Looks like they faked us out there and went with Manny Orozco instead, which was a little odd. But Sean Street pitches very well, 1 earned run over 6 2/3 innings. You can see Gaylord, Robles, Smith, and Calderon all pitched scoreless relief. Scored, run batted in, obviously, with the home run from Nakahara. Also, Juan Castillo, Calez, Julio Castillo also drove in runs for us. So good effort for the Cardinals to get this series off to a good start. Looks like Machuca's going to be going tomorrow. Maybe he had pitched in the he probably did pitch in the wild card series and or the playoff tiebreaker games before that, so probably was not on full rest, so may have got a bit of a bonus there with Orozco going on the mound instead of him. But we're still going to have to get by Machuca today, or tomorrow actually. We're going to have Luis Longoria on the mound. This is part of the reason that we feel we've got to win this year. We have, if you've been watching closely, kept the fragile Luis Longoria healthy for the last several seasons with a pitch count of 90 during the regular season that we do raise to 100 in the playoffs, an aggressive tiredness hook. And you can see he started 32 or 33 games for us for 5 straight years at this point. Pitched the fewest innings since 2042 this year, and his 4.07 ERA was the highest of his career. But this was his final arbitration eligible year. He's going to be turning 30 in a little over a month and a half, closer to 2 months at this point, I guess, since it's only October 2nd. And he's going to be looking for big money on the open market, but we've got him healthy for the playoffs and are hoping that he can go out with a bang in a World Series championship as he likely pitches his final weeks as a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So good 1-0 start. Excuse me. Good 1-0 start for the Pirates. You can still hear my lingering COVID, so I apologize for that. And we are on to day two. Would certainly love to take a 2-0 lead, get a win against the big star Machuca in game two at home, and have the pressure squarely on the Cardinals as we head to St. Louis. And we get it with another close win, 2-1. It looks like it went to the bullpens, and Gaylord got the win in relief. Got a home run from Lupe Zelaya, so love to see that. The two big left-handed bats that we brought on this year to help improve our offense. Nakahara homers in game one of the playoffs, and Zelaya homers in game two of the playoffs. Zelaya with the home run looks like he drove in both of our runs. In the bottom of the eighth, we were down 1-0. Zelaya comes up big. Both teams only had 3 hits, so and it looks like St. Louis did not pitch Machuca again. Don't really know what's going on there, but presumably we'll face him in game 3. But Longoria was brilliant. 3 hits, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts over 6, allowing just 1 run. Clean relief from Gaylord and Calderon, combining to allow just 1 walk over 3 innings pitched with 4 strikeouts. So kind of that game kind of went the way we drew it up as far as the pitching, and we got enough offense to take a 2-0 lead to St. Louis. So looks like we may finally be facing Machuca in game 3. We'll find out. I would think he would be fully rested by the time we have a day off, and then we get to St. Louis for game 3. So that'll be a tough matchup for us. We're going to have the veteran Bobby Gonzalez on the mound for us. We've already talked about Machuca plenty. Bobby Gonzalez, 12-6 this year with a 4.53 ERA. He has been with us since 2039. So the second year of this playthrough, he joined us. And you can see he's pitched and started at least 29 games for us each of those years. Been a really good pitcher for us, all-star for us, led the league in wins a couple of seasons ago. He's looking for an extension. We're not sure if we're going to give it to him, even though ownership wants, because at this point he is getting to be a borderline starting pitcher. And we do have some really good young talent as far as our starting rotation. So it's conceivable that we'll be moving on from Longoria and Gonzalez, both longtime huge contributors of our starting rotation after this season. But the hope is that before that happens, we can get another 9 wins out of this team. And if we're going to do that, we're going to need some big performances from Gonzalez and Longoria. Hopefully can start getting one of them today and get a sweep of the Cardinals and make this series as quick and easy as possible. Not to be the case, though. Another pitching duel, 3-2 victory. Gonzalez got the loss, Fuentes with the win. So does that mean that Machuca still has not pitched, or he just didn't go very far? No, Machuca finally did pitch. 2 earned runs over 6 1/3 innings. Gonzalez got the loss. It was a quality start. 3 earned runs over 6 innings, although he did allow 10 batters. Gaylord, Robles, and Smith in relief. Looks like we got runs batted in from Calez and Coronel, but 3-2 loss on the road. So it's not going to be as easy as we would have hoped. Now we're going to be facing a big game 4 with a rookie on the mound for us. So that could be a interesting dynamic here in a game to hopefully avoid having our backs against the wall in a deciding game 5 at home. Hector Garza going to be on the mound for the Cardinals. 33-year-old was 11-12 with a 4.03 ERA this year. Did have the fewest walks per 9 innings in the National League, though. 398 FIP in a 3 WAR. So he doesn't have the best stuff in the world, but good movement, good control, ground ball pitcher, spots his stuff well. Certainly won't be an easy matchup for our lineup. And as I mentioned, we're going to have the youngster Alex Arroyo on the mound, recently turned 25, had a cup of coffee with us at the end of last year, and then joined the rotation this year, went 13-12 with a 3.65 ERA, struck out 199 batters for us, 2.9 WAR, 3.44 Sierra. Hopefully can get a big performance out of Alex Arroyo today, avoid having to play a Game 5 in Pittsburgh, and be able to head to the NLCS with our rotation intact rather than having to pitch Sean Street in a Game 5 in a couple of days. So big opportunity for the Pirates to hopefully slay the dragon that the Cardinals have been for us this season and in many of the previous seasons today on the road. And we did get the job done. Another pitcher's duel, 4-2 game. Gaylord with his second win of the series in relief. Orellana with his second loss of the series in relief. Actually, Gaylord and Orellana were the winner and losers in both Game 2 and Game 4. Calderon got a save in both of those games. Also, home run from Julio Castillo, the brilliant rookie, probably going to be Rookie of the Year. Lupe Zelaya, the new addition, first baseman, MVP of the series. So one step down. Alex Arroyo was excellent. 6 hits, no walks, 1 earned run over 7 innings, struck out 8. Kind of got some mixed relief some mixed relief performances from the other youngster, Devin Smith. Danny Robles looks like he came on and struck out a lefty in a clutch situation, though. Gaylord, as we talked about, with the win, and Calderon with the save. Already talked about the home run from Julio Castillo. Also got runs driven in from Arellano, Lupe Zelaya, and Nakahara in the 4-2 victory. Was a 2-2 game heading into the 9th. Got 2 runs in the top of the 9th. So a big win for excuse me. And apologies again for my COVID cough. Thought I was doing better and I could film this episode, but perhaps I will hit the wall here at some point. But Arellano with a run-scoring double off of Orellana. Interesting. In the top of the 9th, pushed us ahead, and you can see it was a pretty big swing there in the win probabilities. But 2 runs in the top of the 9th pushes Pittsburgh into the National League Championship Series. Taking a look at the playoff tree, the Giants and the Braves are still going. All of the other series are still going at this point. But we'll find out who will be playing shortly. And the Giants outlasted the Braves in the other NLDS matchup. So the 2 teams with byes, ourselves and the Giants, are still alive in the National League. 3rd team with a first-round bye, the Red Sox, alive, but they will be facing the wild card Yankees in the ALCS. So a classic matchup between New York and Boston in the American League. And our Pirates need to win 4 games against the Giants to finally get to the World Series. And we're ready to get things started against the NL West champion San Francisco Giants. You can see they were 92-70 this year. 5th in the National League in runs scored, 5th in the National League in runs against. We did take the season series against them 4-3. That's kind of our job here. If we can get another 4 games against San Francisco in the W column for the Pirates, we will be going to the World Series, which has been our goal. We've got our ace, Sean Street, actually one of our 2 aces, to be fair to Luis Longoria. Sean Street on the mound for us, the lefty going against Edgar Lara, 30-year-old who was 9-10 with a 4.43 ERA for the Giants this year. Right-handed pitcher, is a ground ball pitcher, throws in the low 90s. Certainly would appear that the pitching matchup favors us in Game 1. So particularly playing at home, I think it's going to be critically important for us to get off to a good start here in Game 1 of the 2047 NLCS. And unfortunately, it did not happen. The Giants beat us 5-3. Oh, it looks like Gaylord took the loss in relief. So that's disappointing. We had a 3-0 lead on them heading into the 6th. Then they scored a run in the 6th and 4 in the 7th to turn the tables on us. Looks like once Sean Street started to tire, moved on to the bullpen, and things unraveled there with a disappointing performance by Gaylord, who walked a batter and allowed a hit, 3 runs, 2 of them earned, gave up a home run, didn't record a single out in 10 pitches. Juan Bin Daoud then came on board, also made 10 pitches, gave up 2 hits, didn't record an out. Robles and Smith ultimately stabilized things a bit, but it was not enough. Street did pitch well, 2 earned runs over 6 1/3 innings, no walks, 10 strikeouts, was let down by the bullpen. Looks like Luis Linares was injured in a collision, so could be without our shortstop day-to-day with a strained rib cage muscle. So not an optimal start to the series for the team, that's for sure. Almost a must-win situation coming up tomorrow in Game 2. Don't want to panic yet, but definitely is going to be an interesting situation for us. Longoria on the mound for us, going up against Jorge Sanchez. This would be a second straight pitching matchup that does favor us, even though Sanchez was a brilliant 16-2 this year with a 3.53 ERA. You just look at the arsenal that Longoria brings to the mound compared to Sanchez, and we should definitely be the favorites in this game. I'm going to take a look at my roster now and maybe consider taking the banged up Luis Linares out of the lineup, even though it's only a minimal impact on his hitting and his running. I think I'd rather have somebody healthy out there for these must-win games. And we are going to take Linares out of the lineup. We're not going to put him on the IL yet. Theoretically, I guess he could be a defensive substitute for us if that's what manager Jan Vasquez wants to do with him. So our defense will be a little bit weaker with Juan Castillo moving over and becoming our everyday shortstop. Not quite as good defensively, but should give us a little more offense. That'll allow us to get David Green back into the lineup, shifting things around. He'll be playing first base against lefties, and Bobby Guzman will get into the lineup against righties, and he'll end up playing third base as we shift things around. So it is not literally a must-win game, but the pitching matchup favors us, and we're going to be headed on the road to San Francisco for the next 3. Certainly do not want to be headed to the city by the bay down 2-0. So the pressure is on Longoria, and it looks like he comes through. Longoria gets the victory, 7-3 win for the Pirates, so hopefully stabilize the series a bit there. Jumped out early with 2 runs, a run each in the first and second innings. They came back and tied it in the 4th, but then we got a run in the 4th to take the lead back, and then 4 in the 5th to blow things open. Did get a run on us in the 9th, but a 7-3 victory for the good guys. Longoria was very good. 1 hit, 3 walks, and 11 strikeouts over 6 1/3. Wright, Calderon, and Smith on in relief. We got to Sanchez early and often, 8 hits and 6 walks over 4 1/3 innings to allow us to score the 6 runs. So little disappointing that we lost the first game of the series, but we did what we had to do in Game 2 to bounce back. Now hopefully we can take at least 2 out of 3 in San Francisco before we head back to Pittsburgh to hopefully finish things off. And we will have the veteran Bobby Gonzalez on the mound in the critical game 3. Mario Rosales going to be on the mound for San Francisco. 31-year-old was 10-13 with a 4.44 ERA this year. Ground ball pitcher who throws in the mid-90s. Pretty good movement on his pitches. Looks like he's been a pretty solid pitcher over the course of his career for them. 67-77 record with a 4.40 ERA, but his stuff actually looks pretty decent when you look at his profile. Above average stuff and control, really good movement. Pretty even pitching matchup. Probably maybe favors us on the margin with Gonzalez, but should be a hard-fought game, no doubt. Hopefully we can get the W today and kind of get a little more control in this series going. And we do get a 4-2 win. Bobby Gonzalez with the victory. Rosales takes the loss. Not a lot of home runs in this series for the Pirates. In fact, none so far. All 3 of the home runs have been for the Giants, but we are up 2-1 now. Halfway to our first World Series, potentially, with this team. Gonzalez, the veteran, was solid, making a strong case for us potentially giving him that 4-year extension he wants to take him into his 40s. If he keeps pitching like this in the playoffs and eventually the World Series, it's going to be hard to say no to that. 2 earned runs over 7 innings. Smith and then Calderon on for his 4th save of the playoffs. Got a couple runs driven in from Ruacho and Nakahara. Each drove in 2 runs to account for the scoring. We took a 4-0 lead and then basically held on the rest of the way. So big win that guarantees that the Pirates will have at least one more home game. The goal now is to get at least one more in San Francisco. So a little less pressure potentially when we get back to Pittsburgh. And obviously if we get one more in San Francisco tomorrow, the goal is going to be to just finish up the series there and get some rest before a potential World Series matchup against the Yankees or the Red Sox. But we've still got 2 games to win before that becomes our reality. So for game 4, we've got the youngster Alex Arroyo on the mound, who pitched in the clincher of the NLDS victory over the Cardinals, going up against Tony Diaz, 6-8 with a 3.71 ERA, a pretty average pitching profile for the 30-year-old Diaz. This seems like a game that we should definitely win. I know it's putting a lot of pressure on the youngster Alex Arroyo, but he certainly has a stronger profile than Tony Diaz. Would be nice to put a bit of a stranglehold on this series by hopefully winning here in game 4. And we do get the job done, 2-1 victory. So Arroyo pitched well, finally got a home run, which we were talking about just a few moments ago from Lupe Zelaya. Continues to be a huge addition to our team. Taking a look at the box score, the Giants scored 1 in the 2nd. We came back with 2 in the 4th, and it was a pitcher's duel. After that, Arroyo was brilliant. 4 hits, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts over 8 innings. Calderon came on and got his 5th save of the playoffs. And Diaz was respectable. 8 hits, scattered 2 earned runs over 5 1/3 innings, but was not good enough. Alex Ruacho tied the NL playoff game record for doubles with 3. But Zelaya is the one who drove in both of the runs, although Ruacho did score 1 run. So the Pirates are on the brink. So as I've talked about, sorry, I'm trying to pause this frequently and cough off camera so you don't have to hear me choking things back. So apologies for the poor production values, but we're getting ready for Game 5. As we talked about, this is the 10th year of this Pirates playthrough. We've made it to the NLCS twice with this franchise, but have not made it to a World Series yet. Clearly, this is our best opportunity ever with a 3-1 lead over San Francisco, and more importantly, the first team that we put together that we have really felt should be a World Series contender and hopefully a World Series winner. We've got our ace, Sean Street, on the mound going against Edgar Lara. We felt like this pitching matchup favored us in Game 1. Obviously didn't work out in that 5-3 loss where the bullpen got banged up a bit. Hopefully we can get the win today and then have a little bit of time off before a World Series. Not to be the case, though. Giants, with their backs against the wall, beat us 4-3. Send the series back to Pittsburgh. It looks like Sal Valadez on in relief, saddled with the loss. Oof. Looks like a 15-inning game. Just a Giants took a 1-0 lead. We jumped out to a 3-1 lead in the 6th. They tied it up at 3-3, and it stayed 3-3 all the way into the 15th inning. Marcus Frazier run scoring a single off of Sal Valadez there in the bottom of the 15th. So that is a brutal way to lose. Hopefully there's no residue in the Game 6. Obviously both teams emptied out their bullpens. Street was not exceptional. Allowed 8 base runners with 5 hits and 3 walks over 5 2/3, 3 earned runs, struck out 7. So disappointing that we couldn't get the series clinched. Obviously, still we're big favorites with a 3-2 lead heading back home, but you never know what can happen. Clearly want to clinch a series anytime you've got that opportunity. So the fact that we let this one get away from us hopefully will not come back to haunt us. We've got Longoria on the mound up against Jorge Sanchez. Similar to Game 2, think that this pitching matchup favors us back at home. And we did get the win 5-4. Gaylord with the W in relief. Alex Ruacho, the series MVP. And these Pittsburgh Pirates are finally on their way to the World Series 10 years into our playthrough. Taking a look at the box score for this 5-4 victory, we jumped on the Pirates for 2 runs in the first. Or we jumped on the Giants for 2 runs in the first. We are the Pirates. They came back with runs in the 2nd and the 6th to tie it. They actually took a 4-2 lead in the 8th. We came back with a run in the bottom of the 8th. So we were down 4-3 at home. And last licks paid off. Looks like Coronel with a run-scoring single and Bobby Guzman with a run-scoring single against Collazo, one of our former relievers, in the bottom of the 9th to clinch the victory. Looks like Boston's been waiting for us. They beat the Yankees 4-1, so they're going to be a little more rested than we are for the World Series, but we are in the World Series. That's what matters. Finally got there with this team. Now the goal is to get across the finish line with these Pirates, and we're 4 wins away from doing that. Longoria tied the Pittsburgh record with 13, and then for strikeouts in a game, which I believe he had set a few years back for us in the playoffs, and then ultimately struck out 15 over 7 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 15 strikeouts. So the brilliant pitcher who's going to be 30 next year and a free agent and unlikely to be back, pitching lights out for us, really helped keep the team in the game. And then we broke through in the bottom of the 9th, as we've talked about, to give Gaylord his 3rd win of the playoffs. And our Pittsburgh Pirates are finally off to the World Series. And we're going to have a good matchup in the World Series. The best team in the National League, best record in baseball, in our Pittsburgh Pirates going up against the Boston Red Sox, who had the second best record in the American League behind only the Royals. So should be a really good matchup. We did win the season series against Boston. Obviously, only 3 games being an American League team, but we did take that series. They are a very good team, though. 3rd in the AL in runs scored, 3rd in the AL in runs against. So a pretty similar profile to our Pirates. A really good offense and a really good pitching staff. So as a Yankees fan in real life and a Pirates GM in this game, nothing that could be more potentially satisfying than beating the Red Sox to win the World Series, but nothing that could be potentially more painful than the Red Sox being the team that would prevent the Pirates from getting this long-awaited title that we have been pursuing for a decade now. And Luis Linares still dealing with that strained rib cage muscle for the next 2 days. We'll see how the first couple games in the series go. Maybe we'll potentially get him back into the lineup to upgrade our defense a little bit. But obviously it worked out okay without him in the past series. Bobby Gonzalez going to be on the mound for us. That surprises me. I thought that with the day off between games 5 and 6 that Street would have been ready. Street pitched 5 days ago. I don't know if I love this decision by our manager. Does give Gonzalez the opportunity to go against his former team in the World Series, and he did win a World Series with the Red Sox back in 2037. Shortly before he became a member of the Pirates. But I hate to I'll go with what the manager thinks is right. We're going to end up getting, if we go to 7 games, we're going to get 3 games out of Gonzalez, Street, and Longoria. So it's just a matter of the order in which we get them, I guess. Obviously, if we get blown out in the series and don't get to a game 6 or a game 7 and we're missing Street and Longoria and only get to pitch them once, that would be disappointing. But Gonzalez is trying to pitch for a contract from us, trying to pitch himself to his second World Series title against his former team, so he should have plenty of motivation. We've got the home field advantage. Alex Mills going to be on the mound for the Red Sox. 23-year-old, looks like a brilliant young pitcher, 13-6, 4.34 ERA, but he struck out 268 in 153 and a third innings. Great personality, obviously incredible stuff with a brilliant changeup and fastball and an excellent splitter. Left-hander could be a very tough matchup for our Pirates here in Game 1. And it proves to be tough. 7-4 victory for the Red Sox. So we're off to a tough start. Did get a homer from the NLCS MVP Ruacho, but tough performance. Gonzalez, only 3 earned runs over 6 innings, but Juan Bin Daoud and Devin Smith both allowed runs in relief. Looks like we had a costly error by either Juan Castillo or Andres Coronel, as we 3 of the 7 runs we gave up were not earned. So that could be a reason for us to potentially move back to Linares in the lineup at shortstop and tighten up our defense when we have him back fully healthy. Mills was not great, only went 3 innings. But the Red Sox got the job done. So a 7-4 loss here in Game 1, and pressure is on the Pirates as we head to Game 2. Definitely don't want to be heading on the road down 2-0. Finally got this team into the playoffs into the World Series after, as I said, a decade of striving for that, and certainly would be deflating to be headed to Boston down 2-0. So hopefully we can avoid that with a fully rested Sean Street going up against Cesar Soto, a good 32-year-old pitcher, 14-7, led the American League in ERA, WHIP, and FIP minus this year. So going to be another tough pitching matchup for us, going up against another left-handed pitcher here in Game 2. And the Pirates lose again. So we are down 2-0 to the Red Sox. The dream is not over, but it's slowly turning into a nightmare. Looks like the Red Sox took a 2-0 lead. We jumped back to take a 4-2 lead, had that heading into the 9th inning, and then we gave up 3 runs in the top of the 9th. We're unable to score in the bottom of the 9th. Sean Street was great. Smith with the hold, and then Calderon, who we brought on near the end of the season to become our closer, with a critical blown save, his first loss of the playoffs. Extremely disappointing to find this team that we thought we had finally built up to be able to hopefully win a World Series now with our backs really up against the wall, in an extremely disappointing start to this World Series against the Red Sox. So we're going to be headed to Boston down 2-0, and a lot of pressure going to be on us. I do think that Longoria will end up pitching Game 3 with the extra day off between now and then, but the Pirates pretty much have got to be perfect the rest of the way in an effort to hopefully be perfect. Looks like Linares hopefully will be healthy tomorrow. We will probably get him back into the lineup to tighten up our defense a little bit. Maybe too little, too late from this Pirates team. We've got to win 4 out of 5 at this point to attain our goal. So it's not impossible, but it's going to be tough. And we are going to have Linares back back in the lineup at shortstop against both lefties and righties to hopefully tighten up our defense. So getting ready for a critical Game 3 in Boston. We've got Longoria on the mound. He's been really good in the playoffs, 1-0 with a 2.33 ERA, going against Alvaro Partida. Pretty solid pitcher, 10-9 this year with a 3.62 ERA. Ground ball pitcher, throws in the mid to high 90s, was an all-star this year for the Red Sox. So would have to think almost anytime Longoria is on the mound, the pitching matchup's going to favor us, but they certainly have a strong pitcher that they are countering him with. But regardless of what the matchups are, the Pirates just have to win. And we did get a 3-2 victory, so that was big. Longoria looks like he outpitched Partida to get the W. Calderon bounces back from the loss, picking up the save. Taking a look at the box score, Red Sox took a 1-0 lead. We came back to take a 2-1 lead. They tied it at 2, and then we scored a run in the 5th to take that 3-2 lead, and then held on after that. We got runs driven in from Nakahara, Castillo, and Linares. Good to see him contributing, even though he did get pulled for a pinch hitter eventually. Longoria, 4 hits and 3 walks over 6 1/3, allowed 2 earned runs. Gaylord and Calderon combined for 2 2/3 innings of scoreless relief. So the Pirates showing a little bit of life here in Game 3. Obviously now the goal is to get things back to even here in Game 4. And we're going to have the youngster on the mound for us. It'll be his 1 start of the World Series. We'll see what Mr. Arroyo can do for us going up against John Westfield, 28-year-old, nice pitcher for the Red Sox, 11-6 with a 3.54 ERA. These are two high-powered teams. Another lefty going for the Red Sox. Let's see if we can get a W and get things back to even. And we do get things back to even. 8-5 victory for the Pirates. Calderon once again involved in a decision. He got the loss in Game 3, the loss in Game 2, the save in Game 3, and now the W here in Game 4. Devin Smith, the rookie, comes on and gets a save. Interesting to check out how this went. Did get a couple of home runs from Nakahara and Henry Gonzalez, showing some signs of life after a very mediocre season. Could also be his final season with us, as he's not all that great, and his arbitration number is getting kind of high. Red Sox took a 2-0 lead in the first. We got back to even with runs in the fourth and fifth. Oof, wow, this is a brutal loss for the Red Sox. They then jumped on us to take a 5-2 lead in the bottom of the seventh. We got 3 in the ninth to tie it, and then 3 in the 11th to win it. So a pretty painful way to lose for the Red Sox. David Green, run-scoring double in the top of the 11th. That's kind of interesting. Green lost a lot of playing time this year, hit just 239 for us, but he did lead the league with 48 doubles last season. So kind of interesting to see him coming through with a big double in the 11th inning there to propel the Pirates to the win. Royo was respectable, 2 earned runs over 5 1/3. Bin Daoud, ugly in relief. But Valadez, Calderon, and Devin Smith then combined for 4 2/3 innings of scoreless relief, allowing just 2 hits without a walk, as they gave the Pirates offense the opportunity to come back, and the Pirates took advantage of it. So after that really disappointing 0-2 start to the series, we've tied things up at 2-2. But, we've put ourselves in a difficult position. It's tough to win 3 games on the road at a high-powered opponent. Excuse me. Tough to win 3 games on the road any time of the year, particularly 3 in a row against one of the best teams in baseball on the road in the World Series in Fenway. But that's exactly what we are going to be trying to do tomorrow. Bobby Gonzalez pitched, as we talked about, many years at the beginning of his career in Fenway. So let's see if he can come through in Game 5. Make up for that loss in Game 1 of the series. Alex Mills on the mound for Boston. Excuse me, apologies. We talked about him. He is the brilliant young left-handed pitcher. Incredible stuff, a strikeout machine. Guess the question is how many innings they're going to get out of him. Hopefully we can get to him early and, most importantly, get a win here in Game 5. It would be our 3rd win of the series, Game 3 in Boston. Not to be the case. So the Red Sox take the advantage in the series back. Finally, a home team has won a game here in the series in Game 5, so they have put all of the pressure back onto us. We are going to be able to play the last 2 games in Pittsburgh, but we're going to have to win both of them. Oof. David White gets the win, his 3rd of the series in relief. Gonzalez, disappointing potential end to his career with us, losing 2 games in the World Series to his former team. Did get a home run from Julio Castillo, but a 6-4 win for the Red Sox. They jumped out to a 3-0 lead. We closed the gap to 3-1. They made it 5-1, then 6-1. We did get 3 back in the 8th, but too little, too late. Castillo with 4 runs driven in, including that home run. Linares, we put him in the lineup to tighten up our defense. And, of course, he makes 2 errors at shortstop for us. had 2 unearned runs among the 6 that they scored. So both of those errors were costly and resulted in unearned runs. Probably the type of thing that's going to end up costing a team a World Series championship, unfortunately, when you go out and your defensive-oriented shortstop makes an error that costs you runs twice in a game. Going to be tough to bounce back from that in a very evenly matched series with the Red Sox. So the Pirates will be heading back to Pittsburgh, down 3-2, as we try to win this World Series. And the only positive thing sorry, I'll try that again. It seems like the ups and downs of this series are exacerbating my health, but invested a lot of time into this Pittsburgh playthrough. Thought this could be the year that we finally get across the finish line and win a World Series. It's still possible, but very tough position now. As I was starting to say before my coughing and COVID got the best of me, the only positive thing we have going for us is that because our NLCS went a little longer and we had to pitch Bobby Gonzalez in games 1 and 5 to very poor results, we do have our 2 aces, Sean Street and potentially Luis Longoria, on the mound for the last 2 games of this series. So we've got the 2 pitchers that we would want to see going in Game 6 and potentially Game 7 here at home in Pittsburgh. Street going up against Cesar Soto, another left-hander, another really good pitcher. Can the Pirates push things to a deciding Game 7? And they do not. So the dream of winning a World Series with this Pirates team continues to remain just that. And the World Series ended up turning into a bit of a nightmare. Looks like Calderon, who we brought on to be our closer, loses another game here in relief. Did get a home run from Lupe Zelaya. Took a 2-0 lead. They came back to go up on us 3-2. We bounced back to go up 4-3 heading into the 9th. And then it was a brutal performance, I am sure, by Calderon. 3 hits, 2 walks over 2/3 of an innings. Errors from Bobby Guzman and David Green. Just a brutal performance. Sean Street was good. 3 hits, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts over 6 1/3. Allowed just 2 earned runs. He did his job, was let down by the bullpen. Kind of wondering now what the team would have looked like if we hadn't made that trade for Calderon and brought him on as our closer. I did actually think before the playoffs started of maybe moving him out of the closer role into a left-handed specialist role. But I felt when I looked at his profile compared to Gaylord, who we would have went back and had as the closer, that Calderon looked like a better pitcher. So I'm not going to second guess that too much. Actually, that's a lie because I'm second guessing it right now. But definitely a bummer. Felt like this Pirates team was finally poised to win it all this year. And unfortunately, we failed to come through. And now, thinking about next season, it's going to be a very different team and potentially a much weaker team. Would have loved to see Longoria to have an opportunity in Game 7, possibly pitching his final game ever for the Pirates. Won't get that opportunity, unfortunately, but longtime ace Longoria likely gone. Infielder Bobby Guzman likely gone. left fielder Henry Gonzalez, former number 1 overall pick, going to be making around $11 million in arbitration, likely gone. Ethan Mingo, looking for close to $8 million as a reliever, likely gone. Mike Wright, looking for over $9 million as a reliever, likely gone. Bobby Gonzalez, as we've talked about, likely gone. Yoshitaro Nakahara, looking for $6.5 million with his age and fragility. Think we'll probably let him go after we signed him to that 1-year deal this year. So we are going to be losing a lot of important players off of this team next season. Felt like this was our last opportunity with the two-headed beast at the top of the rotation in Longoria and Street. And because of that, felt like it was going to be our best opportunity to get a World Series championship with these Pirates. And unfortunately, it did not happen. So we are back to the drawing board, unfortunately. Can see our entire history now of 10 seasons as the general manager of the Pirates on our history here. 8 winning seasons, 8 playoff appearances, and finally our first World Series appearance this year. But we still do not have a World Series championship, and that is bitterly disappointing because I really thought this was the year that we would finally get this team over the hump. Felt like we had the best team certainly in the National League, and judging by our record, can certainly argue that we had the best team in baseball, had home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and just did not make the most of our opportunities, particularly in the World Series. So we end up 2 wins short of our goal, losing the 2047 World Series 4-2 to the Boston Red Sox. And we will be back in our next episode to do a recap of the season and kick off the off season, find out exactly what our budget's going to look like next year, and figure out what our next step should be with this Pirates franchise and this playthrough. Thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.